welcome back to my channel. I am Linda and I am a healer, a coach, and a facilitator. And in this channel, I bring you clarity about emotional intelligence, practical spirituality, and personal development subjects and how you can use them in your day-to-day to create a more meaningful, fulfilling, and joyful life. So today we're going to talk about gratitude, and hopefully this video is going to be pretty short, but every time I say that it ends up being longer than my regular video, so I don't know. I'm going to shoot for a shorter video. But the reason why I wanted to talk a little bit about that today is because I've mentioned in a couple other videos that I've been planning to move out of the country for just about the last year or so, because of the current circumstances in the world. A lot of that was put on hold. And now it is starting to progress again. And as I was trying to plan my next few months, I decided that I was going to try and get some videos pre-recorded and get some work for my practice done in advance, because I'm going to be busy moving. And as I was doing that, I realized that this year is coming to an end. And 2020, I'm recording this, it is past the middle of October of 2020, and this year just went by in the blink of an eye. In some ways it feels like we've been sort of frozen in time, almost like the year flew by, but we're also frozen, like nothing ever happened, because most of us were stuck at home for extended periods of time, etc. So it just feels this very weird dichotomy that we're living in right now. It just feels very strange, at least to me and to a lot of people that I know. But in realizing that we're coming to the end of the year, I also realized that this year was, a whopper. There's just no other way to describe it. It was a really hard year for most people individually, but also collectively, globally as the human race as a whole. It was just one issue after another, not just in the US, which is where I currently reside, but really all over the world. And one of the things that I wanted to do is I want to do a meditation, which I actually will be recording, or already recorded and uploaded, but at the beginning of the year in January, I'm going to have a meditation to just sort of receive the new year and prepare for it. And as I was thinking about that, it occurred to me that one of the things that a lot of us have not done a lot of or at all this year is express our gratitude. And I know it's been a really rough year, and it feels like we don't have a lot to be thankful for. However, we do. And the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because I believe gratitude is one of those things that most of us take for granted, and I'm including myself in this. It is a really, really great practice to have for a variety of reasons that I will get into in a moment, but it is something that most of us take for granted. We are not, some of us are, grateful towards the people around us, our family, our loved ones, etc., even strangers, but we're not always grateful to the universe as a whole. Whether that's for you as the universe, whether it's source, whether you call it God, whatever it is that you choose to call it, we don't express our gratitude to life as a whole. For some of us, I grew up as someone who a lot of people considered a negative person. I don't fit into that criteria anymore, what others deemed as negative. I also never considered myself as a negative person. I always thought that I was a realist with a sprinkle of cynicism on top, but other people didn't necessarily agree with that. But I'm someone who, for a great part of my life, was always looking for the bad stuff. Any new situation that showed up in my life, I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was always waiting for something bad to happen. And even when I got something good, I received it. When I was able to receive it, I did it from a place of fear, because I assumed something bad will follow. And that is a response that comes from trauma, right? So I'm not putting that down. I am not chastising myself or invalidating myself for that state that I used to be in, because all of those things were things, coping and defense mechanisms that I created in response to trauma. So people who come from trauma have a tendency to view the world from the lens of, oh, something good happened, that means something bad is probably going to happen. And that makes the majority of us actually in the world have a tendency to look at things that way. So I'm not saying anything negative about that, and I want to be careful about that, because I know some of the viewers here may actually fall into that particular category. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. That is a response to trauma. However, or in addition to that, it actually is helpful to try to make a conscious effort to look not just for the negative stuff, but also for the positive things in your life, for the positive things that you already have in your life, but also for the positive things that are coming into your life. So some of the reasons why gratitude is a great skill to develop, a great practice to develop and cultivate is, number one, because gratitude opens us up. And what I mean by that is, if you can find things that you are grateful for, that actually puts you in a state where it allows you to focus on receiving. And I'll explain that a little bit more. Now, the first thing that I probably would, most people would probably say is, well, I don't have anything to be grateful for, or that's really easy to say for someone who doesn't have the kinds of problems that I do. And the reason why I know that that is the most usual response, or an easy response, is because that was my response when people said that to me in the past. However, I just never really understood, and I think this is one of the things that happens with a lot of these spiritual concepts and a lot of these types of practices, that people tell you to do them, but they don't really explain how to do it. And maybe it's because they don't know, maybe it's because they think it's intuitive, but it really isn't intuitive for everybody. It certainly wasn't for me. When people said that I was ungrateful, or when people said that I was always focusing on the negative, no one really taught me how to do anything different. I learned that way of being as a coping mechanism to my circumstances, to my trauma, but nobody ever actually showed me how to do it differently. People told me to do it differently, but no one actually told me how. And what I will say is that for me in particular, gratitude, as well as a few other things, were things that I learned how to do them by creating the habit. And there's, it's interesting because for me, it became a habit. I started doing it as a habit, then it turned into a mindset, and then it really went deep and turned into a state of being. And I'll explain that a little bit more. But for example, when I started practicing gratitude, the first thing that I did is, you know what, I'm going to do this. So I put a reminder in my calendar, because I do everything by calendar. I put a reminder in my Outlook calendar for every night to list a couple of things that I was grateful for. And this is something that takes me like 2 minutes, right? I get the reminder, I do it, it takes like 2 minutes. And I didn't, at the time I wasn't looking at elaborating on anything. It was just pick 2 things that happened today that you are grateful for. And I created that as a recurring reminder for, I think it was probably like a month or something. I don't really remember, but it was for several weeks at a time. I know it was over 21 days because 21 days is the number that is the number of days that it takes for a human being to create a habit. So I did it for at least 21 days. So every night I would get the reminder, and I would take just 2 minutes to be grateful for something. And it could be the smallest thing. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm, grateful for my life, and I am grateful for the love of my children. I mean, and that's all well and good, right? If you want to do that and you have those things in your life, then great. But it could be something small. I think what is important here is that it is genuine. That when we are doing these types of practices, specifically something like gratitude, as well as others that I will probably talk about in other videos, that we're doing it from a genuine place. And another video that I don't know if I recorded yet, but this is the same practice, or the same way that I look at things like affirmations, right? You want to do it from a genuine place, because if you say something like, oh, I'm grateful for the wonderful life I have, except that you don't genuinely believe that you have a wonderful life, that kind of doesn't work. energetically, because your subconscious mind, and in a lot of cases even your own conscious mind, knows that that's not true, right? Doesn't believe that. So the benefit of that gratitude, you don't receive that benefit, physiological, psychological, emotional benefit, because it's not true, right? So what I started doing was being grateful for just little things, right? So for example, well, I'm grateful that Whole Foods or the grocery store had the cake that I wanted, right? Or I'm grateful something, by the way, I still do this. I did this yesterday, I believe. I had to go to an appointment and I was running late and I almost missed my train, and I finally got it. I had to run a little bit and, was out of breath and everything, but I got to the train and I sat down and the conductor was like, you know what, you made it, relax, reduce, take a load off. Cause I was like really stressed because I thought I was gonna miss the train, right? So when I sat down, the first thing that I did, I took a few breaths, relaxed a little bit, and I said, thank you, I'm grateful that I got on this train. And now I can just, calm down and rest for a little bit, right? So my point is that it can be very little things. It doesn't have to be any big things. Just start small. You're creating the habit. You're trying to create a habit for your own personal growth, for your own personal improvement. So just start small and be genuine. Find things that you are actually grateful for. So for example, if you go to the store and you find the cake that you want, or if, I don't know, whatever, your friend calls you and you talk to them for 10 minutes and you were in a bad mood, but they call you and now you're in a great mood, be grateful for that. The song that you love comes up on the radio. It's something that you're like, oh, I love that song. I hadn't heard it in such a long time. It makes me feel so good. I'm grateful for that, right? So the idea is that you start small, and the more you create the habit, then the more you can start going bigger and bigger. So one of the things that this does, like I mentioned a moment ago, is it changes your mindset, right? So as you create the habit, you start training your brain, your physiology, to look for those things, right? So the more you pay attention to the good things, the more you start noticing them. So it not only does it become an easier thing to do, as it gets ingrained in you as a habit, it becomes easier to do, but it actually becomes second nature, and you're literally training yourself to some degree consciously, but also subconsciously, start looking for those things that are positive in your life, those things that you can be grateful for. And like I said, it changes your mindset. When you are in a place of gratitude, when you are in a place where you're looking for the good things that are coming your way, it actually helps you it shifts your perspective. And I'm not going to say that you become a more positive person, because I'm not really sure that I sort of buy into the positive or negative mindset. I'm kind of on the fence of that, on that particular subject. But what I do think it does is it shifts your perspective. It actually helps you feel more hopeful and feel more positive about yourself and your life, which to me, that in itself is a great benefit, right? So another side effect of that, which is another benefit of gratitude, is the fact that physiologically, right, in your mind, in your physical body, it actually creates a sense of well-being, because your focus now is also on the positive things. And by the way, I'm not suggesting that you deny or push aside or try not to see the negative. For anybody who's seen any of my videos, that's not how I operate, but I want us to also see the good, to also be able to be grateful for the good. It doesn't mean ignore the bad. It means remember that our world is a balance. So you see the bad, you experience the bad, but there's also good in there. And what I was saying is that it actually help us because physiologically it creates a sense of well-being for us. The other thing that it actually does is energetically, gratitude is one of those states that actually raises your vibration, your energetic vibration. The other benefit is that because you are changing your mindset, because you are looking now for these positive things, for these things to be grateful for, it actually opens you up and it moves you into a place of receiving. Now, if you are anything like me, and this is very common also for people that come from trauma, we have a little bit of difficulty receiving. And this is something that I personally still am working with and still struggle with. And I'm being completely transparent, right? So there's a lot of these videos that I do and I say, well, I've done a lot of work in this area, but I still have a little bit to go, because you're never perfect, right? We're always work in progress. But there's a lot of aspects and a lot of things that I talk about in these videos that I have gotten to a pretty good level of managing and navigating. Receiving is something that I still struggle with pretty regularly. It's still very, very hard for me. But what I have found is that when I am in a place of gratitude, I am more open to receiving, because I believe, and this is what happens to me, and I think it's what happens to other people as well, because I've noticed it with some of my clients and some of my friends, is that when you are constantly focused on the negative, right, and you're not looking for the positive things in your life, like we said a moment ago, you are constantly feeling threatened, right? You're constantly feeling like the other shoe's gonna drop, etc. So you are closed off because you think anything that comes your way is potentially something that could harm you, is a threat to you. So it is a state of a state where you are closed off to receiving. Once you start developing the skill and your mindset starts shifting and you are opening up and actually being able to see the good things that are coming your way and be grateful for them, that actually opens you up. It puts you in a place where you are energetically, emotionally, mentally a lot more open to receiving things, because you're not always waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're not always thinking that everything that is coming your way has strings attached or is a threat to you. Another important benefit of gratitude is that I am at a place where I am now even going a little bit further and cultivating gratitude for the so-called negative things that happen in my life. And this is something that I don't even think anybody told me to do. This is something that developed very naturally through my progression. And the reason is because as all of these negative things, and some of them have been pretty severe, pretty traumatic experiences, emotionally speaking, as I healed those wounds, I realized how much learning and how much wisdom came from them and how much growth came from them. So looking back, while you're going through it, I'm not expecting you to be grateful. I for sure wasn't, right? But as you look back on it, like they say, hindsight is 20/20, right? As you look back on those experiences, you realize how much you got out of them, right? How much wisdom, how much learning, how much growth, how much development. So I'm in a place in my life where I can also be grateful for that. But I wanted to share that because that is also something that I consider a benefit of being in a state of gratitude. Because this is more of a habit for me, I'm now able to expand it to be grateful for the things that to the naked eye are not so great, but to me, I can see the value in them. And like I said in the beginning, I mean, the reason why I wanted to talk about this now is because, as this whopper of a year winds down, I really want to encourage all of you to take inventory of this year. And I know it's been, terrible in so many ways, but I truly believe in my heart that for each and every one of you, there's at least a couple of things that you can pick that happen for you that you can be grateful for this year. Even if it is as simple that you did not get the thing that I can mention because it's problematic in YouTube videos, right? If you did not get sick. So even if it's something as simple as that, which seems very small, but that is actually something to be very grateful for, especially this year. So just start thinking about it. I'm actually going to put a link, an affiliate link in the description box. It is an affiliate link for Amazon for a gratitude journal that I found in Amazon. I have not ordered it yet, but I did see it and I thought that actually would be very helpful. I'm actually buying it as a gift for someone, but I actually thought that that would be very helpful, you know, for people who are starting to develop that practice. So I'll put the link in the description box for those of you who are interested. But anyways, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. So I am hoping that you can find a couple of things. I know you can find a couple of things that you're going to be grateful for that have been happening throughout the year, and just start building that practice, you know, start creating that habit in your life, and you'll see that it actually does shift your perspective, and it is so helpful in any journey of personal development, spiritual growth, etc. So until next time, namaste.